emotional damage. You want some therapy?
All right, what up, everybody? Hit that like button as you make your way in. We're gonna do this one really quickly. You know how I do. Side of the road, midday. I got some things I want to get off my chest real quick. Things are only gonna get more tense going into the future. We are on a what appears to be some type of collision course at this point. I was looking at problems like immigration. And I would have said easily about immigration, you can't really vote your way out of that kind of thing. That's why we have to do like mass deportations and alligator Alcatraz, and we're sending Mexicans to Gambia or whatever country it was. That's how you fight the mass immigration problem. As I'm watching a lot of people respond, and it's mostly like I'm talking about black people in particular, because I'm focused on people I know. But the left in general is having an outsized, overblown reaction, a negative, possibly a psychologically unhealthy reaction. And I hate to break it to these guys who are all happy that Charlie Kirk is out of the way. Charlie Kirk probably isn't even as hard line as I am. I'm pretty sure I'm further to the right than Charlie Kirk is. And what's the value at this point of even being a moderate if moderation ends in murder? Generally speaking, the idea of being a moderate was that you are somebody who, for purposes of political debate or just political expediency, you could point to them and say, he is not as crazy as those other guys, right? He is not as dangerous as those other guys, right? That's the idea of being a moderate. And I think a moderate is a term that only really gets thrown at the right. I don't know if there's even a place to be a moderate liberal. I think within the confines of liberalism as an ideology, it is exceedingly difficult to actually maintain your position as a moderate liberal. I think the word for it is a radical centrist. And even within that, you are radical. Like you can't just be normal. You can't be moderate in any capacity as a liberal. And so it seems to me the only political ideas that really do get boxed in and couched in these terms of being a moderate. I am not all the way far right. I'm not like those guys. I think that position has kind of lost its value. And this is also a part of the reason why, as I've grown deeper into my political position and I've examined and I've thought more about the nature of politics and political ideologies, I've officially abandoned the concept of being a quote conservative because all that was to conserve has already been lost. And so now when I talk about ideas like fascism, it is for that simple reason. There's nothing left to conserve. Conservative was the moderate position. Conservatism is inherently a moderate position. The moderate position is no longer safe and it never held any value. You moderate niggas never had any juice to begin with.
None of these niggas have motion except for me. There has to be one real nigga left in America, in this damn country.
The moderate position likely died in Utah. And not only did it die in Utah, you niggas who desperately need, who are thoroughly afraid of anything beyond the moderate position, you niggas danced on the grave of the moderate position in Utah. And I've been watching the videos, I've been collecting the evidence. I heard TikTok has finally gotten around to striking all those videos of people celebrating Charlie Kirk. It's too late. They live forever on Twitter now. And I've been collecting a box of ammunition. And I'm gonna go back and take another swipe at this thing. We did this the other day with Empathy is Dead. And I guess the next time around we're gonna talk about, the moderate position is also dead. If your moderate position brought you to this conclusion of what value is your moderacy, and Carmen, I would have changed my logo. I would have changed my whole thing to hood fascist, but it doesn't roll off the tongue like hood conservative. Hood conservative sounds like one clean, complete idea. Hood fascist feels mashed together. Although the idea of hood fascism does sound interesting. Maybe I could be like a low-level warlord guy. I don't want to be the president. Just, let me run some shit in my own little territory. Maybe I could be hood fascism. I don't know. We could explore that maybe. It's a nice idea, but the brand sticks though. We are officially hood conservative. That's the brand. It's a great brand, isn't it, bro? It's a great brand. What's going on, Ty? It's a great fucking brand. But even in the years since then, like as I looked at the political landscape and the realities of everything, there is no point in being a quote moderate. What does being moderate truly buy you? What is the value of the moderate position anymore? You think these niggas gonna love you anymore? You think these troons are gonna forgive you for not trooning out? You think the feminists are gonna stop going off on a titty march? You think the feminism is gonna end because you're moderate? You think the immigration? You think all the illegals are just gonna walk home? They're gonna start building their own boats and floating back to wherever they came from because you're so moderate? Is that really how you think moderacy works? And perhaps this is a growing point. As someone who's kind of long abandoned the idea of being a moderate, I don't think I ever was moderate. I was 10 toes. Everywhere I landed, I was 10 toes down. I don't think I know how to be a moderate. And here's the problem, it's like a practical structural reality. How can you tell the truth moderately? Even as a YouTube streamer, and I mean, as a YouTube streamer, because y'all rules be like weird and opaque, it's difficult for me to know how much truth I am allowed to tell. And so I don't know if I can tell truth moderately. And I suppose, being forced to color within the lines of the YouTube algorithm, it forces you to be a little bit more moderate in general. But I chafe at that shit. I really do. It almost feels like being a moderate is being less honest. And less honest feels like dishonest? And one of the things that a guy like Charlie Kirk got hatred for was for being too honest, apparently. Whether he was accurate in his figures and his estimations, because people will argue about 1350. And for the record, 1350 is not about all crime. 1350 is a specific reference to capital murder, homicide. Yeah, yeah. I watched Nick Fuentes a couple of his viral clips. I'm gonna play some of that later on. I had a show geared up because the two positions left over for the young generation to now latch on to, neither of these are moderate positions. The young generations coming up, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, the big major online platform movement voices they have left to listen to are not moderate by any stretch of the modern conception of the term, right? Nick Fuentes and Hassan Piker are the two voices that are left standing. And there is nothing moderate about either of their positions. Now, depending on where you land, one of these extremes might be more comfortable to you than the other. But I tell you again, the moderate position died with Charlie. And so going forward, and later on tonight, when I finish this shift up, I'm gonna crank it out. No matter what time I get in the house, I'm gonna make sure I drink a cup of coffee on the way home or something. But we're gonna get this show off because I got this one queued up and it's been sitting there for a minute. But we're gonna look at Nick Fuentes versus Hassan Piker. I'm sorry, Hassan Piker, and examine their two extreme views on things. Because even now, if you care to look, while Nick Fuentes is cautioning his audience, and even I guess because allegedly Nick is trying to steal the Charlie Kirk audience, which doesn't quite sound accurate to me. But that's what Jason Whitlock accused Nick of earlier today, of effectively trying to steal Charlie Kirk's audience that's left over now. But it's like you got nowhere else to go. These are the powerful voices, and even in death, you almost discredited the moderate position of Charlie Kirk because they'll kill you no matter how hard you try to be nice, right? No matter how affable you try to be, no matter how biblically you try to live, they'll still kill you. And so now we have Hassan the Pike and Nick the Graper. And these are the positions left over for the youth to follow. And again, neither are moderate positions. Neither. Oh, shoot. Hold up a second. I just realized something. Okay, we're back. We're back. But yeah, Freeze on Loose says there are moderate people on both sides. Well, it's an obvious truth. Means nothing at this point. That's kind of what I'm kind of prognosticating about. The moderate people that are left. All right, put it this way. There may have been X amount of people moderate on the right. And then Tarantula Monster attacked the ballerina for no reason. And it was caught live on a transit cam. And not only was it caught live on transit cam, you have a lot of people, a lot of the black people on the other side of the political aisle who says, well, maybe she called him the N word, or maybe he didn't. He's not guilty because he's really sick. And then my favorite one is, well, the system failed him because the system didn't spend enough money solving his problems. Therefore, he's really the victim here, right? And however many people were moderate before that, you have to subtract a few now. I'm not going to give you a hard number, but you have to subtract a few now. And then you get Nick Fuentes. I mean, not Nick Fuentes. Nick Fuentes. Charlie Kirk. And he probably still had X amount, X minus the ballerina subtraction of moderate people on the right. And then we've all seen the video of that giant gaping bullet hole that went through his neck. And now you have to subtract more people from X minus the ballerina's radicalization, and so on and so on. And what I propose to you right now, Free Zone, is that because mental illness is very much a left wing coded social phenomenon, there are very few mentally unstable right wing people. There are tons of unstable left wing people out there, just oodles and oodles of crazy pussy hat wearing left wing people out there. And a lot of them revealed themselves recently on TikTok and Instagram and whatnot, celebrating this death. And you're going to get a lot more left wing crash outs. You're going to get, and the Trump is only in his first year. We just coming to the end of Trump's first year. And as Trump, I heard he just put George Soros under a RICO. Now we're about to investigate the entire Soros network. And as you see, like Doge came in and immediately found out USAID was a scam, so we ended that. We're redistricting a lot of these blue areas to get some more red seats, and we actually redistricted Jasmine Crockett right out of the job. Right as the right goes on their natural attack, the left is going to find itself increasingly powerless politically, and therefore, in their state of impotent rage, they will lash out violently. And we've already seen the left lash out violently as a matter of American history. You know, the whole 70s was a violent era that nobody ever talks about because most of your teachers are gay communists. A lot of your teachers are probably participating in some of that stuff. And why are you guys calling the shooter a right wing radical? This is what I mean about mental illness being centered on the left. You understand the definition of mental illness is basically how far of a break from reality that you have chosen to accept. So when you believe things that are verifiably untrue, and you have an entire series of beliefs that are verifiably untrue, it begins to look something like a mental illness. And so a lot of people on the left believe things that are verifiably untrue. And they built their entire operating reality on these things that are verifiably untrue. And you know the easiest way to test that theory? Transgenderism. That whole moment in the Supreme Court nominations with Ketanji Brown Jackson, and when they ask her, what is a woman? And a person who was sitting on our highest court body in the world has a hard time coming up with theoretically what would be a legal definition, right? Because you deal with matters of law at the highest possible level. And from a legal standpoint, you do not have a clear, concise definition that separates man from woman, thus the beginning of your mental instability. And speaking of mental instability, a lot of the people in our glorious community are in fact objectively mentally unwell. Now, that's not me making a clinical diagnosis because I am far out of that position to be able to give some kind of diagnosis. But from my casual observance in my life amongst the Negroes, like Jane fucking Goodall, I have observed a great instance personally of many people who are mentally unwell. They just hold ideas and they have habits that would put them directly outside of civilized, polite public life, which is why they are stuck to the ghetto. And they vote. They vote blue like all the other crazy people. Like all the other officially diagnosed crazy people, them niggas vote blue too. No, this is not a long show because I am still on the clock. That's why I had to just get off the air real quick and make sure I punch back in because I am still on the clock technically. But we're on a long lunch break. I got to get out of here by like 3 o'clock. But I'm just watching all of the reactions to this thing, and I don't see people voting their way out of this particular problem. Uncut, I promise you. Look into this. Don't ever take my word on anything because sometimes I might be talking shit. Right? Go look this up. Mental illness has a heavy left wing correlation, bro. It is undeniable at this point. And this is not me making an observation from my life. This is me recalling studies and surveys and people talking about this before I ever brought it up. Mental illness and left wing political ideation go hand in hand. Much in the same way that, all right, think about it like this, right? A lot of the people in this country who take psychoactive drugs, who are on some type of emotional therapy medication or something like that, are women, right? So there are a lot of women who are being treated for some type of mental slash emotional issue, right? And what do most women vote? Red or blue? They vote blue. So even on those grounds alone, when it comes to women, the majority of the people who take the majority of what do you call it, psychotropic drugs and medications are females. Well, those people vote blue. And I was talking about mental illness a lot lately because the tarantula monster. Sorry about that. Sorry about that. I had to take a quick phone call. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. We were talking about the tarantula monster and the mental illness issue and whatnot. And I think uh I think we have to accept certain harsh realities in order to have polite society. And this isn't even about objective criminality. This is more about, the mental illness thing. If you don't have a family that can, look after you, and even in those cases, you might be too much. But when it comes to like the most extreme cases or like the people who just kind of, they fell through the cracks or whatever, I think we do have to bring back mental institutions, man. They have to be a thing. There are people in this world who, for all kind of reasons, they sometimes, it does sort of grow over time. You can slowly slip into mental illness for whatever reason, but when you encounter these people, I think if the state actually encounters these people, the state would be within their rights to incarcerate them in some capacity. And then I'll go a step further. When it comes to guys like Tarantula Monster and all that, when it comes to the violently, criminally insane people, they should be on death row. I don't know how it's an argument to anything humane that we should all keep alive people who we understand we can never fix them. And our greatest fear is that if we release them, they're likely to go harm somebody in a terrible way. This is like the Batman and the Joker thing for me. Like, is it really a moral position that you let him go or you keep him around when you have every opportunity to solve such a horrible problem? And I can't argue that it really is a moral position to keep him around, right? And so when it comes to the Joker, yeah, every so often, because out of all the people in the world, out of the 1% of the 1% of people who are some type of criminals, you got 1% of those people are jokers, right? Maybe those guys, yeah, we should feel very little about what has to be done about that. Exile. Where are you going to exile a person to? I mean, listen, I wouldn't mind dropping off our criminals. You know those uncontacted islands where they have like Stone Age people that never made it into civilization. I wouldn't mind dropping some of those people off on that island as exile, right? And if we could like make it like a movie or something, have GoPros and hidden cameras and shit like that. We could record it, take bets and whatnot, see who becomes the island warlord or whatever. But yeah, that sounds like a good problem. We could drop people off to. It's not just the Sentinel Islands. There's the Andaman Islands. There's various islands out there. Are islands that don't even have a proper name, and we could just kick our people out. And every now and then we come back and check on them, and if there's nobody around, then we know that island's vacant, and we can start over again. Like you have to be creative. Modern problems require modern solutions, and I'm all about modern problems. I mean, yeah, we were just up here figuring out how to build a volcano. The Gulag is trying to sponsor a volcano. You know what I mean? So we have solutions for modern problems. But again, none of these are what you would call moderate solutions. Dropping somebody off in exile is not a moderate solution. That is effectively, but just short of actual capital punishment. Like you don't even have to send people off all that far. Like there are giant, vast parts of Canadian territory where nobody really knows what that looks like. You could just fill up the helicopter at the like the northernmost Canadian town, and then drive the helicopter, fly the helicopter halfway out, half a tank of gas, and then drop the guy off somewhere in the Canadian tundra, and then you fly back on the other half tank of gas, right? There are all kind of solutions you can come up with, but the thing is, there is very few unpopulated regions. There are very few unpopulated regions left in the world. So the idea of exile, I mean, I don't know if it really is. Like once upon a time, if you exiled a person from your town, he would see nothing but wood, forest, and savages, right? Now you got, from American perspective, you got to go pretty far to see savages. Like I'm not going to exile you to West Virginia or nothing like that. That's still not punishment enough, even if they are a little bit freaky up there. But all of the moderate solutions, all of the moderate arguments have run their talking points. It appears. And then, it's so funny. For years, I've been arguing with niggas in this chitlin circuit and having all these debates about different things. And I don't know that I've ever argued many moderate positions, maybe occasionally, but it kind of seems like there is no better position to argue than something further away from the center. Because the closer you get to the center, the closer you get to the moderate position, the closer you get to people who are effectively hiding their hand. Because Republicans, being the conservative party in politics, they have effectively been moderate Democrats, right? If you think about like a major criticism of the Republican Party, is that they're basically the Democrats at the stoplight. Like the Democrats have no brakes, they don't stop at any red lights, whereas the Republicans are just brakes on this car. They never actually turn the car in any significant direction. They just slow the roll. And so being somebody who's never really argued for that, slow roll position, it only now reaffirms my point that you have to kind of look for absolute truth. And that's not to say that you're going to make a legal policy that runs all the way to the absolute, but we have to argue the point all the way out so we can actually see where the end point is. And when it comes to things like liberalism, we've never argued the end point out all the way because one, liberals lie, and then two, the moderate position was to assume good faith on their behalf. The moderate position was to assume that the guy with the rainbow flag loves America just as much as the guy with the red, white, and blue flag. Or even worse, the moderate position is to think that the guy with the rainbow flag is more of an American than the guy who proudly holds a Confederate flag. The Confederate man is far more of an American than the rainbow guy could ever possibly be. And so, as things get further and further down this right wing timeline we seem to be on now, I'm kind of wondering what the next shoe to fall will be. Like investigating George Soros for RICO is not a moderate position. And look, what's the value of being a moderate when your enemies are lying about you at every turn? So now they're talking about this HBCU thing. I guarantee you Like at the HBCUs, it's obviously black students, and it's a student calling in death threats. It's somebody black calling in a hoax to the HBCU because that's how they roll. Hoaxes are history now. Shout out to Juicy Smollett, the French actor. There was allegedly a bomb threat at like an NYU school too, so it's not just the HBCUs. In NYU campus had an alleged bomb threat, I think, because I watched some girl on her TikTok talk about it. But she was black too, so she could have been lying. But how do you hold a moderate position in the face of lies? Like, what's the value of being moderate in the face of people who are just lying about you anyway? That guy's a fascist. No, no, no. I'm actually quite moderate. Does it even fucking matter? Does it even matter at this point? That guy's a racist. No, no, no. I actually like black people. Does it even matter? Does it even matter now? That guy hates women. No, no, no. I love women. Does it even matter? Like, there is no point anymore. It's like building trust with the ex wife. That's how it feels, though, right? And frankly, a lot of this does have a weird masculine feminine dynamic to it, like the nature of American politics right now. We really are men who are trying to do the right thing on the right, dealing with crazy women by and large on the left, right? And it reminds me of that Jordan Peterson thing where he was talking to what was that Kathy Newman chick or whatever. You guys remember that famous moment when they were talking about free speech actually, when he was saying I should be able to say what I think even if it offends you. And she said something crazy to him. He was like, "Gotcha, bitch." And it was a great moment, but it does kind of remind us of that moment where Jordan Peterson said, or it may have been a completely different interview, but Peterson had pointed out that men, generally speaking, don't have any real solutions for how to deal with crazy women. And I think there is some truth in that by and large, because the uncomfortable truth that he is lying at, that he's hinting at, because he's a polite Canadian man, he's a professional, he doesn't want to talk about this delicate historical fact. Generally speaking, as men of as gentlemen of polite society, it's been a long-standing tradition up until very recently. The way to deal with a crazy irate woman is to an extend a full hand, your hands fully stretched out, your fingers all the way extended, and you slap the holy fucking shit out of that bitch. That's how, as a Western civilization, as a growing civilization, not just America, but Western culture as a world power growing on the stage, we all collectively understood the general solution to dealing with a crazy, irate woman is to fully extend your arm and your hand and all of your five fingers, all right? A full lateral extension, and you slap the thunder out of that bitch. You put the fear of God back in her face, right? Because that's where it starts. Women care about their face. So you got to put the fear of God right in her face, right? And generally speaking, that was enough to restore order. And then the men could do what they got to do, you know? These niggas about to go to work, so these bitches gonna have to leave. That type shit. And so now we're talking about politics, though, right? We're not talking about raw male female dynamics. We're talking about politics, right? And so the reality politically is that from a structural standpoint, not necessarily a personal one to one thing. Because I'm with Nick Fuentes on this. Don't go out there and throw your life away. Don't go out there and do anything that's gonna make your kids unhappy with you. But we're gonna have to, not have to. We are going to see a tougher stance than anyone has ever witnessed in our living lifetime. We're going to see something that probably goes back to McCarthy because McCarthy was right. I don't know if you guys know this. I don't know if you need me to tell you this, but McCarthy was right. And so now we're going to have to go about the process of, I guess, the decomification. I was on Sharon's panel earlier, and I mentioned to him like we're going to have to black bag some of these people. Black vans are going to pull up outside of your house, and a black bag is going to be thrown over your head, and you're going to wake up in a foreign country surrounded by people who don't even believe in Christian morality, and you're going to have to answer their questions. That's what's going to have to come next, right? People are going to go to black sites. People that you chat with in all these underground left wing circles, they're going to get put on the wheel of pain, and it has to happen. What are you going to do when the Patriot Act comes for you? Yeah, I think that thing's still on the books, by the way. It's going to be a white van. Probably right. White vans are more inconspicuous. White vans look like plumbers and shit. A white van looks like it's full of Mexicans waiting to go do something. Yeah, it's probably going to be a white van. But that's the only next move, man. That's the only next move. People are going to start getting disappeared. And I low key support it. I'm not even going to lie. I low key support it. But we are going to put this one in the books. I got to get back on this stupid clock in a minute, working for the man every night and day, living just enough for the city. Let me read some of these super chats before we get up out of here. Shout out to JH Marvelous with the 199. Vacuum creates a new non-white moderate leader. Oh yeah, that'll be fucking hilarious. A new brown moderate. That's how you know it's over. That's how you know it's over. The new moderate voice is gonna be that black guy. It's gonna be Charlie Kirk's gay black bestie. They're going to try to line him up as the new moderate voice, right? Remember Charlie Kirk's gay black bestie? You guys remember Gay Rob? Gay Rob is now the official turning point moderate voice, right? It's Gay Rob. I forgot all about Gay Rob. We're going to bring Gay Rob back out, and he's going to be the new moderate voice, y'all. It's going to be fun. Gonna be fun. Shout out to Gay Rob. Hope you enjoy your new job. There's no way to talk about Gay Rob without it somehow sounding pause worthy. So we're just gonna hurry up along. Just gonna hurry up along there. Shout out to ID Crisis Design with the 499. Mental institutions, yes, but run by the church. some of this crazy is actually a spiritual, probable, or attack. I'm not opposed to that. I'm not opposed to the church having some hand in some of these institutions. I don't think they're appropriate for every scenario, but yeah, I wouldn't tell you no right offhand at all. No, I think that's not a bad argument. I would feel more comfortable if the church was more involved in some of these things. I um I mean I think we all rightfully may have issues with the church as an institution and whatnot. Whatever church you're talking about, I assume you'd be talking about the Catholic Church because that's the only church that's a big enough institution to really deal with that. But even on a smaller, non-denominational level, like it's possible, right? It's possible to see how that could help. Either way, though, I think we both agree on the mental institution part, and so from there, I think we can apply some soft methods as well, right? I don't necessarily believe that pills and chemicals are going to fix everything that's wrong with you, right? Unless pills and chemicals broke you, I don't know if pills and chemicals can fix you, you know. So I'm not opposed to that totally. It's not a bad idea. Rational B with the $2. The second conversation starts, the left is winning. Huh. I actually disagree with that totally. I think the internet has revolutionized our conversation in such an unpredictable way that the left couldn't even imagine losing in such a spectacular fashion. If you think about the last 10 years of Trump, the last 15 years, think about what Trump alone has done. It started under the birther movement. Somewhere around the time of I mean, not the birther movement, the Tea Party. Somewhere around the time of the Tea Party, Trump came along on this birth certificate hunt, right? So now the birther movement is born. And then he actually runs against Obama. Something about that birth certificate hunt, it made Trump actually jump into politics, y'all. Hold on, give me 1 second. I gotta step away for a quick second. Birther movement. So Trump, he starts up this birther movement, and something about the birther movement makes Trump wants to jump straight into politics, right? And so now he goes into politics, and he doesn't defeat Obama directly. Obama runs his 8 years up, and he defeats Obama's VP, his protege, his next up, which was Hillary, who in political terms is a way bigger evil than Obama is. I mean, Obama doesn't really have the body count attached to him like Hillary does. Like Obama's body count is like kitty numbers. Obama's body count is like in kindergarten. Hillary's up here teaching master classes on body count levels, right? And so he defeats, the great Satan. And then at the same time, all of that's happening, the internet is shifting from a visual, read only, text only kind of format into an audio content. And then eventually it went from audio visual to just straight up live conversations. Now we can have live platform conversations with each other. And the amount of truth telling that started to happen all along that same timeline, it caught the left wing off guard. They just were structurally unprepared for all these ideas and all these conversations being had all in the open. And then, two, they have no real substantive counter to actual argumentation. And that's why when you say the second conversation starts, the left is winning, I actually have to disagree because what the last 10, 15 years have proven is that the left actually can't stand conversation. They actually are the champions of cancel culture. They have been engaging in cancel culture for decades, technically. That's why you get fired from your job if you make a racist joke or a sexist joke or something like that. They have been the ones who have been policing and manipulating language because they can't win a conversation that has uncontrolled points. If you are just going up there saying the things that you think and believe, they have to stop you because they know that your raw truth will always be more attractive than their managed their managed fantasy life, right? They have a fantasy truth, and they have to manage that fantasy truth at a microscopic level. This is why when we talk about things like fascism and all that, the left is already completely fascistic. They just haven't embraced the reality of it yet. Rational B with another $2. The good, the true, and beautiful is not a debate. Well, even that is a debate. Let me tell you why. Because those of us on the right who actually do identify the good, the true, and the beautiful, the majority of us have a religious and even a mostly Christian worldview about what is true, what is good, what is beautiful. And the further you get away from those worldviews, the further you get away from good, truth, and beauty. And so what winds up happening is it almost becomes like an existential theological conversation with people when we start talking about why things should be, what's right and what's righteous and what is just. I think ultimately the right wing has by default become the defenders of truth and good and beauty, which is actually a great place to end on. And this is what was great about Nick Fuentes' call for calm and rationale. He said, make yourselves unkillable, work out, be defensive minded, be politically active, but don't be stupid. Don't be reckless. Don't be a cowboy. Because even in the face of all that's ugly and evil and untrue, it is your responsibility. If you identify with any element of the political or social right in this country, it is your responsibility to carry on, to create, and to defend the good, the true, and the beautiful. And you have to make it undebatable. But I got a real job and I'm going to go do that shit. You guys have a great day. I'm going to try to get back early and start up the show around 8:30 Eastern time. Not Charlie Kirk. Nick Fuentes versus Hassan Piker. Battle for the youth, y'all. It's a battle for the youth. You guys take care, man. I'll catch you later.
It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done. It's done.